Raise your hand if you know Michael Smith. Michael Smith. Cedarburg. He does the garbage throughout Cedarburg for the last 17 years. Yes, Michael Smith. Now you know who that is. Not Michael W. Smith, the singer, the Christian rock singer. No, although Michael sings. But let me ask you something about that. Let me ask you, I have some questions, really good ones too. Who is that? Okay, you know it. How do you know him? That's established. What is he like? What is Michael Smith like? Oh, please.
He's very friendly.
Very friendly, yeah. He what?
He's very friendly and willing to help.
And willing to help. What else? How about Michael Smith? Hardworking, right?
He's a Christian.
He's a Christian, okay.
He exudes joy.
He exudes joy.
When he sees someone in need, he helps them.
When he sees someone in need, he helps them.
He loves Cedarburg.
He loves Cedarburg. Does he do a good job? Oh, he does a good job. Okay. Do you know what makes him tick? You know what makes him tick? Do you have an idea? This is uncomfortable, isn't it? Wait. So what is it that drives him? What do you think pushes him to be who he is, what he does? Rosa, please. His values, right? His Christian values, you said? Yeah. Right. Does he talk about his faith? Does he talk about his faith? Let me ask you this. In what ways does he witness his faith? Well, by doing a good job? By being joyful. By being joyful? By being helpful? By exuding... What, Rosa?
By being a servant to all, because not many like garbage.
Yeah, he's a servant to all because not many people like collecting garbage, right? But he does it with a certain kind of enthusiasm and joy, and he likes his work. He likes the people he encounters, right? What kind of impression? Let's see. Is he paid to say what he says when he's out in the field? How do you know he's a Christian? Does he say anything about it? Does he give any indication that he is a Christian? Do you think he's an effective servant, a witness? Do you think he's effective as a servant of God, of Jesus? Yeah, probably so. Yeah. I don't know him. I have just heard about him. Today's lesson is about. Oh my goodness! Hi, Ann. We're not going to be so strict, but I can't focus. I can't focus for some reason. My world is turned upside down. Oh. Okay, now where was I? Something about the disciples and the lesson in the reading. You know, before this lesson, Jesus had told his disciples, they're walking along the road, he said, you know what? I'm going to be betrayed. I'm going to be beaten and tortured, be crucified, I'll die, and I'll rise again. And then we have James and John saying, I wonder who's going to be, why don't you do something for us, Jesus? Yeah, could you do something for us? You know, if it were me, and this happens sometimes, you're going along, you're pouring out your soul, and all of a sudden they go, squirrel! And then you start talking about the squirrel, and you're, are you listening to me? Isn't Jesus pouring out his soul to these disciples? And all of a sudden they go, you know, they don't care. They're just caring about who's first, who gets to sit on the right hand and left hand. And I'm sure Jesus goes, oh, come on. I've been with you for 10 chapters now, and you're still not getting it. But at the same time, you know, think about this, too. Is Jesus a priest? No. Is he a high priest? No. Is he a layperson? Yes. Is he effective in his ministry? Yeah. Is Michael Smith an ordained pastor? No. Is he effective in his ministry? Yes. You kind of see where I'm getting with this. And then you have Jesus, who's a layperson. He's been trained. He's had some classes, I'm sure, but he's not a priest. But he goes along, and he picks people who are professionals in their own right, you know, second career people who are going to change careers and become something different. And you know that their learning curve is pretty high. If you're going into a completely different field, I imagine from fishing to missionary preaching is, you know, it's going to be a big step. I imagine, you know, if you're fishing, you can be relatively quiet. You can tell kind of people what to do once in a while, but you don't have to talk a lot. And so, for example, for Peter, he's got to change his whole lifestyle to be a talker and not put his foot in his mouth every 5 seconds like he does in a lot of this stuff. But they're learning. And then I wonder, too, if Jesus is one of those employers, when I call it that, one of these leaders that picks people with no experience whatsoever, because none of these people have experience in what Jesus is teaching them. They're all doing their own thing. And I think sometimes companies like to hire people without experience so that they can train them the way they want them to, without having all these, I don't say bad influences, but different influences clouding their way. It's like their cup is empty. They don't have to empty the cup and put new information and new stuff in. Their cups are empty. So for Jesus thinking, you know, I'm hiring these people, I'm calling these people, they have no experience whatsoever, they're going to screw up, you know, and it's going to be a lot. But I think as time goes on, he sees that they're learning. They're starting to get it. Matter of fact, they go out in pairs and they start preaching the word and healing people. Wow, that's a big stretch from catching fish or collecting taxes or what have you. So I think Jesus is very patient with these disciples of theirs. And the good thing is they're not afraid to ask questions. Even ones that are kind of manipulative and controlling, like Jesus, we want you to do whatever we want you to do for us. Like what? We want to control you and do whatever we tell you to do. What is it you want me to do for you? Okay, we want this. We want high and mighty. We want to be on your left and right side, and we want to be, you know, in your glory and all that kind of thing. We want to be great. We want to be recognized. We want a place, special place with you. And Jesus was saying, you know, I understand where you're coming from because we live in a king society where kings and queens rule. And to be at the king's right or the queen's right-hand side, that's special, right? And left side, even that's special too, but being up with the king is special. But how often, you disciples, have you seen a king walking amongst the people, helping them when they can, inviting anyone and everyone to dinner in their holy court, or submitting themselves at all to the lepers and the women and the children and that kind of thing? It's different. It's not the same. To sit at the right hand and left hand is not, in your mind, the same with who I am and what God's kingdom is all about. It's a different kind. It's more that we're all servants. You know, to be a king means you're going to be a servant. It means if you're a leader, if you're able to be amongst the people you're leading and to listen to them, to give them pointers, to give them encouragement, to give them support, everything works for the better. And I know a lot of leaders who do that, and I really think that's great. To be amongst and listen and be with and feel the pulse and just work side by side with people when you can. And this is what Jesus is showing his companions the whole trip. Rookie mistakes. So what's the good news? The good news is that even if they're second career people, even though they're making mistakes, even though they don't get it right now, they're learning and they're on their way, they're progressing. And the good news is that Jesus is walking with them. Jesus is patient with them, with their questions, encouraging their questions. answering the best that he can, offering a ray of hope. I'll die, but then I'll be back. I'll resurrect, and it'll be new. It'll give a sense of new life for all of us. And it's not because I'm a high priest or that I'm lording it over anybody else. I am a servant first and foremost, almost to the point of dying on the cross for you all, for us all, that Jesus is there for us. The ultimate act of servitude is to give one's life for others so that they may flourish, that they may grow. And this is the good news that we hear today in the gospel, that Jesus knows us so well that even for us today, he would be doing the same thing as he did 2,000 years ago. It wouldn't change. He would still be there for us, encouraging us, letting us make mistakes, picking us up, giving us faith, giving us hope, giving us strength for the journey, as he certainly did with his disciples here. Amen.